The development of nationalism did not come about only through wars and territorial expansion. Culture played an important role in creating the idea of the nation. Art and poetry, stories and music helped express this shape and nationalist feelings. So let us take a look at Romanticism, a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular form of nationalism sentiment. Romantic artists and poets generally criticized the glorification of reason and science and focused instead on emotions, intuitions, and mystical feelings. Their effort was to create a sense of shared collective heritage and common cultural past on the basis of nation. So, Romanticism basically made connecting feelings and emotion of people with respect to nation to give na- to give a new spirit of flame to nationalism. This image in the textbook represents the massacre at Chios. This image depicts an incident in which 2000 Greeks were said to have killed by Turks on the island of Chios. By dramatizing the incident, focusing on the suffering by women and children and the hardship which led, this image, when got circulated throughout the nation, this sought appeal to the emotions of spectators and this created sympathy for Greeks. And this is how Romanticism, in the form of paintings, represented and appealed the feelings in people. With this, we can easily state that Romanticism was a good conveyor of emotions than logic and science. So let's take a look at German romantics and the folk culture of Germany. Other romantics, such as the German philosopher Johann Gottfried Herder, 1744 to 1803, claimed that true German culture was to be discovered among common people and who were known as Daswo. It was through the folk songs, the poetry, and the folk dances that the true spirit of nation was called Volkiges. So it was through the folk songs, folk poetry, and folk dances that the true spirit of nation was popularized. So collecting and recording these forms of folk culture was essential to the project of nation building. And this is how German romantics and folk culture together gave rise to a new spirit and unity. So, the basic idea of Johann Gottfried Herder was to collect folk songs, poetry, and dances and enrich and inculcate the feeling of Desh Bhakti into German people. Now, this was the emphasis of the vernacular language, and the collection of local folklore was not just to recover the ancient spirit, but it was also to carry the modern nationalist message to large audiences who were mostly illiterate. And this was a very plus point for the idea of Romanticism. Generally, the ideas of revolutionaries were difficult to understand and interpret by the people who were illiterate. But Romanticism developed an undefined bonding between the person and the nation and made the person work for the nation without any attachments. Right? Same was the case with Lord Byron and Greek independence. All the people of Europe helped Greek helped Greek getting independent despite of their self-interest, right? This is how Romanticism played a very important role in German culture. Now, if we take a look at this map very closely, we can observe that Poland is situated somewhere here and it is surrounded by three kingdoms: Prussia, Russia, and Austria. So, after the capture of Poland, the great powers such as Russia, Prussia, and Austria took over Poland, and Poland no longer existed as an independent territory. And this made the values, culture, and long done history of Poland destroy. Now, if we look at the case of Poland, which is a very important case to signify the importance of language and popular tradition in national identity, Poland was a country between the great powers of Russia, Prussia, and Austria. And even though Poland didn't exist as an independent territory, national feelings were kept alive among the people of Poland through music and language. One of one of the very important example for music, for keeping the spirit of music language alive in the people, is Karol Kurpinski. He celebrated the national struggle through operas and music, turning folk dances like Polonaise and Mazurka into nationalist symbols. Therefore, Karol Kurpinski played a very important role into reinforcing the cultural folk dances into nationalist symbols. Language also played a very important role in developing the sentiments of nationalists in Poland. After Russian occupation, Polish language was forced out of the schools and Russian language was imposed everywhere. In 1831, an armed rebellion against the Russian rule took place, which was ultimately crushed. Following this, many members of clergy in Poland began using language as a weapon of national resistance. Polish was used for church gatherings and all religious instructions. As a result, large number of priests and bishops were put in jail and sent to Siberia by the Russian authorities as a punishment for their refusal to preach in German. The use of Polish came to be seen as a symbol of struggle against Russian dominance. Now, if we come to a conclusion, हुआ ऐसा था कि पोलैंड में पॉलिश बोलना ही बंद करना ऐसा रशिया ने इम्पोज कर दिया था. Now, it would have been very easy to destroy the culture and history of Poland if people stopped speaking Polish or stopped following Polish tradition. But Karol Kurpinski worked really hard for it, and even the priests and bishops of the churches started doing the church gatherings in Polish. जान पूछ के करते थे. But they suffered. They were sent to jail in Siberia and बहुत से टाइम तो उन्हें मार दिया जाता था. But this claim that use of Polish came to be seen as a symbol of struggle against Russian dominance. Russian dominance के against अगर तुमको easily अपना struggle demonstrate करके win करना था ना, so this Polish language played a very important role. In this you have to remember points like Polonaise and Mazurka. These were the folk dances which can be asked in your MCQs. Also remember that Poland began to use language as a weapon of national resistance. This could be asked as a 2 marker or 3 marker question. Next, we are going to learn about a very beautiful thing. Now tell me, do you know who is she? Yes, most of us हमारी ये favorite character of the fairy tales of Disney, and she is Rapunzel. And you would be shocked to know that this story was part of national struggle. Shocked? Now see this. You definitely know this story. All of us have listened to this story in our childhood. It's no chance that तुमने ये story नहीं सुनी of the Little Red Riding Hood. Actually, one of the favorite stories I have. Now, this and this, you would be shocked to know that these stories were a part of national struggles. And can I tell you how? This brings us to the box 1 of our textbook, the Grimm brothers, who made the folk tales and played a very important role in nation building. Grimm's fairy tales is a familiar name. The brothers Jacob and William Grimm were born in the German city of Hanau in 1785 and 1786 respectively. While both of them studied law, they soon developed an interest in collecting old folk tales. They spent 6 years traveling from village to village, talking to people and writing down fairy tales, which were handed down through the generations. These were popular among both children and adults. In 1812, they published their first collection of tales. Subsequently, both the brothers became active in liberal politics, especially the movement for freedom and especially the movement for the freedom of press. In the meantime, they also published a 33-volume dictionary of German language. Grimm brothers also saw French domination as a threat to German culture and believed that the folk tales they had collected were expressions of a pure, authentic German spirit. They considered their projects of collecting folk tales and developing the German language as a part of wider effort to oppose the French domination and create a German identity. This brings us to the end of this lecture where we in detail learned about what is Romanticism. Now you should be able to answer that Romanticism is a type or is a way in which nationalism can be enforced in the people by enforcing feelings, culture, art, poetry, stories, music, and national history into the nation's struggle in order to increase the significance and relatability of people so that they could come and join nation building. उसका हमने एक एग्जाम्पल देखा जर्मनी का, एक एग्जाम्पल देखा पोलैंड का, हमने ग्रिम ब्रदर्स के बारे में भी पढ़ा. We discussed how Poland suffered and how Poland rised up, and this is all for the day. Thank you so much.